powerless. We become predators of the beautiful. You felt it before, haven't you? That strange, sharp emotion when you encounter something truly great, someone whose talent, beauty, intelligence, or confidence is so undeniable that it silences the entire room. And instead of being inspired, something darker stirs inside you. Not admiration, not joy. Envy, resentment. A whisper that says, they don't deserve that. A twitch in the mind that wants to cut them down, not because they've wronged you, but because they could never belong to you. This is where our journey begins. Because today we're not just exploring envy or jealousy, we're dissecting something far more dangerous, the ancient, irrational instinct to destroy what we cannot dominate. And this instinct isn't a bug in the system, it's part of our design. It's a shadow buried deep in the architecture of human nature. But why? Why do we so often turn against what dazzles us, what we don't understand, or what simply won't bend to our control? Let's go straight to the core. Power is not just a political concept, it's an existential hunger. We don't just want to live, we want to matter. We want to influence, to shape, to leave a mark. And when we encounter something that reminds us of our limitations, something we cannot tame, command, or possess, it feels like a personal insult, a wound to our ego. And in that moment, destruction becomes a twisted kind of restoration. If I can't own it, I'll ruin it. If I can't climb the mountain, I'll set fire to its base. If I can't have her, I'll make sure no one else does. It sounds extreme, but it's everywhere in our culture, our politics, even in our personal lives. From schoolyard gossip to corporate sabotage to the burning of libraries and temples, throughout history the pattern is consistent. We destroy what we can't rule, not because we're evil, but because we are afraid of irrelevance.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
But here's the deeper philosophical question. Is it really power we seek, or is it protection from shame? Think about that. When someone else's excellence exposes your mediocrity, when someone's freedom reveals your own chains, when someone's light throws your shadow into sharp relief, do you want them to dim, or do you want to grow? Most of us, if we're brutally honest, choose the former. Not because we're weak, but because we were never taught how to sit with the pain of inadequacy. We weren't taught to use that pain as fuel for transformation. So we lash out, quietly, subtly, sometimes with words, sometimes with silence, sometimes with outright violence. We become moral critics of greatness. We call ambition greed. We label confidence arrogance. We dress our destruction in the language of justice. But underneath it all, there's fear. A fear that we don't matter. A fear that we are replaceable. A fear that we are, in the eyes of the universe, irrelevant. And so we invent stories. Stories that justify our sabotage. We say the powerful are corrupt, the beautiful are shallow, the brilliant are fake. We tell ourselves that the tall poppy must be cut down for the sake of balance. But this is not balance. This is not justice. This is resentment weaponized. Nietzsche called it resentment, the moral revenge of the weak against the strong. It's not strength fighting injustice, it's weakness dressing up as virtue. And it's everywhere. But if you're still watching, you're not here to stay weak. You're here to evolve. And that starts by facing the darkness inside you, not to be ashamed of it, but to understand it. Because only when we understand this destructive instinct can we begin to redirect it, to create instead of destroy, to grow instead of envy. to admire instead of tear down. So here's a question that could change your life. When was the last time someone else's greatness made you feel small, and what did you do with that feeling? Let's go even deeper. There's a reason this instinct to destroy is so deeply embedded in us. It served a purpose. In tribal times, when resources were scarce and survival was uncertain, anything that couldn't be controlled was a threat, a rebel in the tribe, a member with too much charisma, a wild idea, a new tool, a different way of seeing the world. All of these could destabilize the fragile unity of the group. And so early humans developed a defensive reflex. If it's too different, too uncontrollable, too unpredictable, eliminate it. Not because it's wrong, but because it's disruptive. Because it breaks the illusion of security. That's the evolutionary root of this instinct. But here's the tragedy. We've outgrown the tribal world, but the tribal psychology still lives in us. We still feel threatened by what we can't control, even when it's not a threat, even when it's beauty, even when it's genius, even when it's love. And this is where it gets personal, because often the thing we destroy is not out there, it's within. But we sabotage our own potential. We shut down our own ideas. We reject our own dreams because we're afraid of the responsibility that comes with them. We fear the greatness in ourselves more than we fear failure. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the parts of us we repress, deny, or project onto others. So when you see someone bold, fearless, radiant, and you feel irritation, instead of inspiration, ask yourself, what part of me have I buried that this person is waking up? That's not just philosophy. That's a mirror. That's a map. Our impulse to destroy what we can't rule is also a clue to what we most deeply desire but feel unworthy of. And it's not just individuals. Whole societies do this. We enshrine mediocrity. We punish excellence. We create systems that reward compliance and penalize originality. Why? Because originality cannot be ruled. It invents its own rules. And that terrifies the bureaucrats of the world, the ones who would rather keep things predictable than make space for genius. So we build cultures of conformity. We praise sameness. We flatten depth into digestibility. We ask the wild to become tame. But when we do that, we lose something irreplaceable, not just in others, but in ourselves. So here's the haunting question for you. What have you destroyed quietly, politely, or unconsciously simply because you couldn't rule it? A friendship? An opportunity? A part of yourself? And what would happen if instead of destroying, you learned to honor what you can't control? What if the greatest freedom wasn't domination but reverence? The mirror of destruction, how envy reveals your greatest potential. Envy is not just an ugly emotion. It's a mirror that reflects not what others have, but what you long for. And most of us have been taught to look away from that mirror, to pretend we're above it, to label envy as immature, shameful, or sinful. But what if envy isn't the enemy? What if it's a guide? A flashing arrow pointing toward your unlived life? You see, when you feel envy, you're not just reacting to someone else's success, you're confronting the ghost of your own potential. That person you envy? They've embodied something you've exiled. They've dared to live something you've only dreamed. And instead of asking, how can I learn from them? Most of us ask, how can I bring them down? That's the tragedy. The instinct to destroy what we can't rule often begins with envy. But envy, properly understood, is not a weakness. It's a signal. a signal that there's fire in you that's never been lit. Let's break this down. Imagine someone who's deeply confident, not arrogant, just real, grounded, expressive, free. You see them walk into the room and every part of you tightens. You notice their presence. You might call them too much. You might roll your eyes. But inside, something deeper is happening. You're not mad at them, you're mad at the part of yourself that never learned to speak that freely, that never got permission to take up that kind of space. That's how envy works. It exposes the gap between who you are and who you could be. And the pain of that gap, that's the birthplace of both sabotage and transformation. You choose. You either destroy the mirror or you step into it. You either shrink the world to match your comfort or you expand yourself to meet its challenge. And this doesn't just apply to people. It applies to ideas, to beauty, to art, to truth. We often mock what we don't understand because it threatens the structure of our reality. A new idea that contradicts your worldview doesn't just challenge your intellect, it threatens your identity. And if your sense of self is fragile, you'll do what many do. You'll dismiss, ridicule, or destroy it. Not because it's false, but because it's unrulable. Because it doesn't fit into your current map of the world. But the greatest thinkers, the greatest souls, they do something different. They listen. They let the unfamiliar in. They don't destroy what they can't rule, they learn from it. They let it shape them. That's the difference between stagnation and evolution, between fear and wisdom, between envy and admiration. So here's a question that cuts deep. Who do you envy most right now? And what does that envy reveal about the life you secretly want? Don't look away. Don't justify it. Don't moralize it. Just feel it. Sit with it. Because in that discomfort lies a map. And if you follow that map, envy becomes holy. It becomes creative. It becomes your teacher. But only if you stop pretending you're above it. Only if you admit, yes, that stings, and that sting is a message. You're not angry because they have it. You're angry because you could have it, but haven't dared to claim it yet. Let's go even deeper, because here's something almost no one tells you. The instinct to destroy isn't always explosive. It's often quiet, subtle. It shows up in sarcasm, in apathy, in the way we distance ourselves from people who shine too brightly, in the way we dismiss excellence as luck or privilege or ego. It's the little digs, the half compliments, on the cold shoulder, the smirk. We don't burn the house down, we slowly drain its electricity. We make greatness feel unwelcome because it reveals our own refusal to rise. That's the dark genius of social sabotage. And the worst part? We do it to ourselves too. We clip our own wings because we don't want others to feel small. We dim our own light because we're afraid of being envied, afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of being alone at the top of the mountain. But here's the truth. That fear is not a reason to shrink. It's a reason to stand taller, because the world doesn't need more safe people. It doesn't need more polite mediocrity. It needs souls who are willing to be misunderstood for the sake of truth. It needs people who are willing to be envied, hated, even attacked, because they refuse to destroy what they can't rule. They choose to honor it, to amplify it, to let it challenge them into greatness. And that's a rare courage. That's the courage of the creator. the visionary, the leader. The one who looks at something they can't control and says, "Good, let it test me." And that's your invitation. When you feel that burning envy, that impulse to attack or dismiss, pause. Ask, what is this revealing about me? What dream have I buried? What power have I exiled? What version of me is still waiting to be born? The ones you envy most aren't your enemies. They're your mirrors. And if you can face those mirrors without flinching, you'll find something extraordinary on the other side, not weakness, not shame, but potential. Untouched, unused, unclaimed. So what does it look like to live without this instinct? To see something you can't rule not as a threat, but as a gift? It begins with humility, not the false humility of self-deprecation, but the real kind, the kind that says, "I don't understand this yet, but I want to." The kind that bows to the mystery of another person's excellence, instead of trying to explain it away. It continues with discipline, the discipline to sit with envy, to investigate it, to let it transform into admiration. And finally, it ends with creation. You take that energy, the energy you once used to destroy, and you pour it into your own becoming, into your art, your craft, your body, your voice. You stop chasing control, and you start chasing truth. That's the shift. That's the path. That's how we evolve from destroyers to creators, from critics to builders, from shadows to light. But the world will resist you. It will try to pull you back into the old game. It will tell you to stay small, to conform, to criticize, to destroy. Don't. Resist that gravity. Choose awe over envy. Choose growth over resentment. Choose to become the kind of person you once envied, not to dominate others, but to liberate yourself. Because in the end, the only thing worth ruling is your own becoming. From destruction to creation, becoming what you once feared. There's a moment quiet, almost invisible, where everything changes. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't come with applause. It comes when you realize that the thing you once feared, the thing you once mocked, envied, or tried to erase was you. A future version of you. A version that dared. A version that rose. A version you weren't ready to become. So instead of stepping into that version, you attacked it in others. You tried to destroy the reflection because you couldn't yet face the face. But now you can. You're here, still watching, still thinking, and that means something inside you is shifting. The impulse to destroy is becoming the impulse to create. The fear of greatness is becoming curiosity. The resentment is turning into reverence. And that's the moment. The moment where the destroyer dies and the builder is born. But this path isn't easy. Don't let the language fool you. Becoming what you once feared means confronting every story you've told yourself about why you're not ready, not worthy, not capable. It means going back to the roots of your self-doubt and pulling them out, one by one, no matter how deep they go. It means forgiving yourself for the times you chose sabotage over support, envy over admiration, silence over truth. And it means committing fully to the work of building a life that reflects your highest potential, not the safe version, not the inherited version, but the authentic one. The version that doesn't need to rule others because it has learned to rule itself. The version that no longer needs to destroy the beautiful because it has become beautiful in its own way. Not flawless, but whole. And let's be brutally honest, this path will cost you. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you the approval of the herd. It will cost you your old identity, the one built on comparison, complaint, and control. But what you gain in return is freedom. The kind of freedom that doesn't scream, it radiates. A presence, a quiet power, the ability to walk into a room and not need to dominate it, just be in it, fully without apology. To see others shine and not feel smaller, but more inspired. To stop asking, why them? And start asking, what can I learn? That's the freedom of the creator. The one who no longer needs to tear things down to feel tall. The one who builds silently, steadily, relentlessly. And when you become that person, something strange happens. The world starts to shift around you. The people who once envied you begin to admire you, or fear you, or try to pull you back. But it doesn't matter, because you're not playing that game anymore. You're not trying to rule anyone. You're not trying to win the old war. You're building something new. And the beautiful paradox is this: when you stop trying to rule everything, you become truly powerful. When you stop needing to destroy what you can't control, you start creating things that no one can take from you. Your voice, your vision, your values. That's the power that lasts. Think about the people you admire most. Not the ones who are loudest, not the ones who dominate with force, but the ones who elevate everything they touch. They walk into chaos and bring order. They face envy and return grace. They encounter resistance and keep building. Those are the true rulers, not of others, but of themselves. And you can become one of them, but only if you stop running from what you fear. Only if you stop trying to destroy what you don't understand. Because everything you destroy in others, you destroy in yourself. Every time you criticize someone's freedom, you tighten your own chains. Every time you mock someone's courage, you mute your own voice. Every time you attack someone's light, you dim your own. So flip the instinct. When you see something beautiful, honor it. When you see something powerful, study it. When you see something you can't control, bow to it. Not in submission, but in respect, because that's how you grow. That's how you transform the instinct to destroy into the instinct to evolve. And don't misunderstand me, this doesn't mean you become passive. It means you become selectively active. You stop wasting energy on tearing things down and start channeling it into building something better. You become fierce but focused, bold but grounded. You stop trying to win battles that don't matter and start fighting for the future you actually want. That's what it means to become what you once feared, not to lose yourself, but to find yourself in a higher form. So here's where the journey ends or begins, depending on how you choose to live after this. The instinct to destroy what we can't rule is not evil. It's ancient, it's human, but it's also evolvable. You are not bound to that instinct. You are not doomed to sabotage. You can catch yourself in the moment of envy and choose curiosity. You can feel the pull of resentment and choose reverence. You can face the thing you once feared and become it, not to dominate, not to conquer, but to create. To live with such integrity, such presence, such depth, that you no longer need to destroy anything to feel powerful. Your life becomes your answer. Your work becomes your revenge, not against others, but against the smallness that used to own you. And that's your final question. What would your life look like if you never again tried to destroy what you couldn't rule, but instead used it to rise? Really sit with that. Let it echo through you. Because that question isn't just philosophical. It's personal, it's practical, it's revolutionary. Now go, build, become, transcend, because the only thing more powerful than ruling the world is ruling yourself. Wow factor moment. Imagine a scene you're standing in front of a burning cathedral. You didn't set the fire, but you remember when you laughed as it crumbled. It wasn't yours. You didn't understand it. You couldn't rule it. But now in the ashes you see something else, a blueprint for your own cathedral. One that doesn't copy, one that doesn't conform, one that rises from reverence, not resentment. Will you build it?